Everybody, welcome to this issue of Staffing Monthly. And as you know, we are working through the 4 quadrants of recruitment, and we are talking about the various quadrants and how they interact with the website, your ATS that should have some level of integration. And we've talked about things like recruitment marketing and job ad strategy and the employee referral program. And one quadrant we want to dig deep into today is the ATS mining. In the staffing industry, you know that we spend a lot of money to get candidates into our pipelines, and a lot of times those candidates end up in our applicant tracking system. And sadly, the practice that happens in this industry is most often is that those candidates just sit on a shelf, and there's really no follow-on engagement. There's really not much utilization of those candidates to try to redeploy to jobs. And that is an area that agencies need to get better. And I understand that historically that's because it's been cumbersome to search databases and find people and communicate with your database. And that's no longer the case. We actually have found some tools out there, one specifically called Candid8, that is an ATS mining tool. And I'm going to introduce you to their CTO, Steve Popovich, and he's going to talk a little bit about how this tool works and how it can make your recruiters more efficient and get to the candidates in your ATS quicker and fill those open roles you have quicker. So let me welcome Steve Popovich. Welcome to Staffing Monthly.
Hey, Dan, thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you here, man. So obviously you are an expert with ATS development and working on workflows on the recruiting and the sales side. And you've built out this tool that helps make the searching of candidates in an ATS easier for recruiters, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The goal behind Candid8 was to not only automate those searches based on certain keywords that were entered on a position and doing skill code matching, but also to increase engagement. One thing that we found is the cost per acquisition to get a candidate into your database is rather high. And unfortunately, oftentimes, those people once entered kind of get sunk to the bottom of the funnel as new ones come in through the top. So it's really just making sure we are engaging everyone across the board and making sure they're up to date on opportunities. So somebody who might be the perfect match or the perfect candidate for your next job doesn't get overlooked.
I love it. I love it. And if you've been following along with our series, we've talked about how job ad strategy is ever evolving. And right now, this year, we noticed that job boards, some of the major job boards had massive increase in costs, upwards of 43% more expensive, yet they only produce 3% more talent. So agencies have to do something different. They have to be more, I guess, dynamic in accessing talent. So I think the ATS database is really one of the next territories. So how easy is it to use Candid8? Because I've been in this industry long enough. I know most recruiters don't want a new tool and they don't really want one more thing to do or use. So how easy is it for a recruiter to actually use Candid8, and what's that look like? Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So it's actually very simple, and I'd be more than happy to share my screen and take you through a demo. But
Awesome.
honestly, should I do that right now
Let's
or?
just do that. Let's jump right into it. Let's give the people what they want.
All right, perfect. Sounds good. So in this scenario, we will be using a fictitious staffing agency, SpinGig. And as you can see here, I am logged in to my candidate portal, branded to the logo of SpinGig. They have their own custom subdomain. So it'll be brand recognition from the SpinGig aspect at the candidate.app platform. And as a recruiter, you could post a job that'll pull all information from the ATS that you use on behalf of your client. So I already have this pre-filled out. Basic input fields across the board at all ATSs to establish job records, title, description, pay rate, full-time, part-time, start date. Location too, and with the inclusion of remote work, we're able to handle that. So in this example, the client of Acme Printing is getting a job order created in your ATS. So as you're filling out these fields, the key thing is to be mindful of 2 data points specifically. This and or would fill in for a Boolean search string, meaning that if you want to find an ideal candidate for this position in your ATS, they would either have both of these skills that have been outlined or at least one of them. And you have the ability to add more by clicking this button. Job description will also live on the job order in your ATS. If you have integrations to push out to third parties, job boards, I would recommend that you keep it consistent with how you want it to be publicly viewed. It'll also be viewable to the candidates when they receive notifications. Pay rate, full-time, part-time, and start date. This will also be viewable depending on if you have blind submission set up, which means if you want to mask which one of your clients this job is being logged for and just show general interest information, that can be done as well. And then lastly, we have quantity requested and location. Quantity requested, this is more of an internal data point. It's for tracking certain metrics within your ATS for fill rates, etc. And then location will factor into the search. So if it is not a remote position, we have a function that will determine by zip code who is within a given radius that you set to be viewed as a potential candidate for this job. All others, even if they meet the skill criteria, will not be notified. And then
Okay,
vice versa.
so
Sorry.
let me just dig into that a little bit. So when you're posting, if I'm Acme Printing, if I'm the HR or ops manager at Acme Printing and I'm looking for a software developer and I don't really want the position to be remote, I want them to show up on site and work, understanding, especially if I'm looking at, right in the middle of New York City, I don't want to go too far out. So I can basically just set a criteria at 25-mile radius and only people that are within 25 miles of Acme Printing are going to get notified.
That's correct.
Sweet.
But then conversely, let's say it is a remote position. So location doesn't really matter here. If you were to toggle on just yes on that radio button, we are now purely searching based on the key skills that are inputted. Location does not matter. Everyone is deemed a possible candidate should they have those skills included in their resume.
Love it. Love it. And you did mention that through the admin panel, you can set up whether you want blind submissions, if you want your candidates to know who the client company is you're hiring for or not, right?
That's right. Just from conversations I've had with owners at different agencies, I've learned that workflows vary greatly, So we do have a bunch of customization features to meet your company's specific needs to make sure that, nothing strays from how you traditionally would go through this process by letting out that information or not upfront.
Love it. Awesome.
Mhm.
Cool. We'll continue on.
Awesome. Yeah. So once you have this basic criteria filled out, then at the bottom, all you'll need to do is click Post Job, and then it'll send you back a success message letting you know that it was created properly. And now this job record will be integrated into your ATS. So that list of jobs that you have open, looking to be filled, a new record has been created.
So from this portal, so you just logged into this thing and you posted a job, and it's automatically going to go to the ATS, find the client record, create the job order board, or create the job order, and then it's going to create a candidate search with your essentially Boolean logic, go find all of the candidates that match that, just like that.
That's right. And
love it.
It will associate those candidates with the job order. And then the best part, my favorite part, is the notifications being sent out to the candidates via email, text message, or whatever preference they set. Based on their responses, it'll update their status on that job order. So you'll know that they are engaged, opting in, or explaining that they're not interested in this position, but they're waiting for the next one to come by.
So that's interesting. So you'll be able to see all of the candidates that were swept up in the search criteria, to see everyone that the message went to. And then as they interact with the notification, it'll automatically update their status so the recruiters can sort of find the people that are interested first.
That's right. That's right.
Slick. Love it.
So on that note, let me show you, with this job being posted, what the notification would look like coming out to a candidate who was qualified for that position. All right, so now this email that came through would have gone to the candidate, who in this case is me, Stephen Popovich, letting him know that there is a new position open at Acme Printing. As you can see, blind submissions were not turned on for this one, but that's where it would get masked. And then it lets them know just quick highlights about the job. It's full-time, pay rate is $50 an hour, and the job title is software developer. From here, there are 3 paths forward. It might be enough to garner interest, and they could click the accept button, and that immediately would change the status to that record on the job in your ATS. Should they not be interested, They could do nothing and just click out of the email, or to let you know, click decline, and that status will also change. So you at least know that they interacted with the notification that went out.
Okay.
Thirdly, maybe they are interested, but this just was not enough information for them to make a decision. If you click this view details button, it'll redirect you to a more information page where here on the right, you still see the pay rate, full time. As we know from that post, we made the location remote, so they don't need to be present in a certain area. And the title was software developer, Acme Printing, because we didn't have blind submissions, the branding for the agency still as well. And then I kept a short description in. Obviously, this would be longer probably in practice, but you could see the skill tags that were entered for this role as well.
Got it. So it almost lines up like if they were like how people look at their like LinkedIn profile, the skills they've been endorsed for, they can see, yeah, I have those skills. I have JavaScript, I have a little sales experience, so they can see why they were notified.
That's right.
I like the visual of that actually. It's clean.
Thank you. I appreciate that. From here, now that they were given a bit more context, once again, you could do the I'm interested button or decline button, and then it will update the status in your ATS for this person tethered to that job order.
So what would happen? Let's say they get the email like they did and they click view details and they get to this screen here and they're just like, meh, and they just X out and they don't hit either one of those buttons. Like what happens to their status in the ATS then?
So the status would remain, awaiting response, candidate awaiting response, just so you know that the reason that they were listed there is because the software had determined them to be acceptable for the job, and we wanted to know if they were interested.
So then this tool candidate is designed to clearly identify who is responding. It's basically saying interested or declined, which are going to be your most engaged candidates or people in your audience within your ATS. And if people are just not even engaging anyway, like if they're not interacting with I'm interested or declining, they're really not an engaged person in your database. And that could be for a number of reasons, but from my own experience of what I've seen, it's because agencies don't do a great job overall keeping their database engaged. They're not sending them content. They're not sending them a lot of job ads across the board like this, using tools like Candidate because they haven't really existed very well. So I think that's actually a nice tool that you can see who's really just engaged in your database, even if they are declining.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think it's great for two reasons. One, as you've mentioned, the engagement aspect, is what we're trying to rectify here. And passive talent, as it's called, of the candidate record sitting there. They're consistently getting these notifications. If one does strike their interest as it comes by, you might be re-engaging somebody who was dormant for a while. And then also, secondly, outside of the automation that this provides for your recruiter not have to go in and do the search themselves, it's also cutting down the lead time for when they come back in for the manual component. Because should no one have taken any action on these buttons here, they know that they're only going to call maybe X from the list of 100 as opposed to all of them to see if they're interested.
Got it. No, that makes sense. And you wouldn't want to start with your cold list. So you can basically, so once they click I'm interested and updates their status, that recruiter can just filter the list by that status code, and they've just got a short list of candidates that have already met the skill criteria. So they're at least first phase qualified based on how they're entered in your ATS, and then they've expressed interest, the same as people applying to a job, on Indeed or any other website, any other job board. So they can start right there, which is it's great. I like it.
Thank you.
How quickly? Let me run through this just a quick scenario. How quickly do you think it can really happen? Let's say that I've got 50,000 people in my database, and let's say 10,000 of them would actually match this software developer example. If I created that job, how quickly does the search happen? The message get out to the people, and can people respond and have their status updated? And then, like in best case scenario, how quick can that happen?
So that's a good question. The notifications and the matching, that will occur instantly, right? So after the job is posted, candidate gets to work. The turnaround time from the response from a candidate I'm not sure if this was mentioned earlier, but if your notification preferences are set in this way, we also send out text messages. And I've come to find that people usually answer text messages rather quickly, whereas maybe you check your email periodically throughout the day. So in a matter of minutes, you could be seeing responses to the job post that went out if that person is actively looking at their phone.
So that's interesting. Can we take a look at how like the text messages would look, or what kind of text message the candidate would receive?
Sure, absolutely. So this would be an example of a text message that the candidate would receive, much like the email, should they be qualified for the position. No immediate details up front, but if you click into the link, it will redirect you to that same page that the email did to display more information. And then with one tap, they could express interest or decline the position as well.
So can you show me what that looks like if you just click that link, just so I can see the mobile nature of it, because we're in a mobile first society right now?
Very true, no problem. So this would be the mobile view of the website. All the same information is contained as you saw from the desktop view. You'll have pay rate, employment type, the client if blind submissions are turned off, and then with one tap, you can either click I'm interested or decline. And once again, the candidate status will update on that job record in your ATS.
Love it. Looks good. So how does it, so once you're doing this right there, obviously you said it's updating in the ATS. Is there like an admin dashboard to keep track of all these jobs like in one spot, or do they just rely on the ATS for that?
So it would be fully integrated with your ATS, and all of the actions taken through Candidate will update with those statuses so you're aware of where those changes are being made from. But you would go about your day just like you would before you even engaged with Candidate. It's running in the background just to make your day easier.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so that looks pretty good from a mobile friendly or mobile first standpoint. The candidates get that really quickly. They can interact, accept, decline, or choose to do nothing, and their status won't be updated. So the last thing really is when the recruiter goes in there and they start calling from that short list of people and they find someone that they want to submit. What do they do then?
So at that stage, you would just carry on with your traditional process. Another thing I've learned from speaking with owners from different agencies is, workflows differ. So the one thing that's consistent amongst us all is we want to find candidates and we want them to be qualified and interested in the job. So that is the only piece that we automate. From there, you go back to your traditional process and it works.
So this really is just, it automates the most essential recruiting workflow there is: posting a job in the ATS, doing the candidate search, finding the qualified candidates, doing the outreach, finding the interested candidates, and then teeing them up for whatever vetting or screening is going to take place per the client requirements.
That is true.
So, so in theory, when a client emails in a job, the recruiter could literally jump into their dashboard, or they could use the Chrome extension pop out from the side of their browser, and then
Mhm.
just copy and paste in the requirements from the job and hit submit, and it's automatically going to go do that. And while it's actually mining their ATS for all of the candidates and notifying, then they could actually go out and post their job on job boards, or do, kind of trigger recruitment marketing, or do a push through staffing referrals, employee referral program to kind of complete the entire quadrant of job broadcasting. And then by the time they do all of that, they might actually have candidates that have been notified that have said, yes, I am interested in this position, status updated, so they can jump into their ATS, look at that short list. So it's just a good first step to use Candidate while you're doing all of the other processes. So it's mining your database for talent that's there at the ready. That sounds pretty quick.
It is pretty quick.
I like it. Well, folks, if you have any further interest in exploring Candidate, Steve, what's the best way they can reach out to you to learn more about the platform? Actually, I got one other question, because this is another one too, because it is software.
Uh-huh.
What's the implementation? Does this like take crazy, like, seems like every software requires like an SI partner these days and super long implementation to get up and running. Like, how long would it take you to get this implemented and train up a recruiter how to use it?
So not long at all. Honestly, I would schedule some time with you. We would go through what the onboarding process looks like. You would need to share certain credentials so that we can connect the software to your ATS. And if you have all the information at the ready, it could take less than a day. One phone call with me, you'll be fine.
So one phone call with you, 30, 45 minutes, run you through the process. You do the magic CTO stuff, you get it working for their system. And I can't believe there's probably a lot of recruiter training. Literally, they're doing the same exact stuff they might do posting a job ad. They're just posting it on the candidate, their dashboard that triggers everything in their ATS.
It's true. It's not really a new habit to learn, just posting it in a different place, doing the same thing.
Awesome. So if people want to reach out to you and actually learn more about it, or maybe get a more in-depth demo or see how it worked for them, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, send me an email. It's steve@candid8.app, and we'll block off some time. I'll send you a calendar invite. We can jump on a video call to go through any questions you may have, explore the platform further, and more than happy to talk.
Awesome. That sounds great, man. Thanks for joining us with Staffing Monthly, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you, man.